Welcome to Mysteries of Superstition Mountain. I'm Larry Hedrick, where we bring the past into the present for our future viewers. Today we have another great story by Hank Sheffer.
Well, folks, who would have ever thought that Arizona has a nautical history? We have deserts, we have saguaro cactus, we have rabbits, we have rattlesnakes, and we have a nautical history. Everybody on this planet at one time or another has heard that Arizona has more boats per capita than any state in the Union. Well, now, I've always had a problem wrapping my head around that, but apparently it's true to a point. It just depends on how you look at what a boat is. But I do have to say that Arizona does have lakes, it has canals, it has rivers. Actually, truth be known, Arizona has created most of its own lakes. We've done it ourselves. And just for starters, on the Salt and the Verde rivers alone, we have the Theodore Roosevelt Dam, we have the Horse Mesa Dam, we have Mormon Flat Dam with Canyon Lake, we have Stewart Mountain Dam, we have the Horseshoe Dam, and we have the Bartlett Dam, and we have the Granite Reef Dam, all of which have wonderful lakes, all of which have a wonderful following of people with boats. All in all, Arizona has over 200 lakes and reservoirs that you can enjoy most of the year. And all you have to do is have a boat. Of course, that depends on what you refer to as a boat. Now, in Arizona, all watercraft must be registered. But in Arizona, that means it includes jet skis, canoes, paddle boats, kayaks, sailboats, catamarans, pontoon boats, rowboats, and even that homemade bass boat that you and your brother-in-law made in the backyard. That all counts. Everything's registered. So it can really look like there are an awful lot of boats per capita. California, as it stands right now, is the leader in boat ownership, if anybody should ask. So take it for what it's worth. The bottom line is, no matter how you look at it, is we have a bunch of water vessels in Arizona. That's a true story. People just love spending time on the water. We do not, though, I reiterate, we do not actually have any oceanfront property. Thank you very much, George Strait. We do have the next best thing, however, and it all started with the SS Geronimo. Local businessman George Moody recognized the business potential as the beautiful lakes rapidly filled up. And the first one, of course, that we're talking about here is Canyon Lake. Originally, it was Mormon Flat Lake, but it became Canyon Lake. To that end, with the help of Ben and Jess Kramer, Mr. Moody built a launch, and it would transport about 50 passengers and crew, and they could cruise up and down the lake, and people got to see the wildlife, and they could just be out on the water. It was 35 feet long, 10 feet wide. It wasn't all that big a vessel, but people loved it. The SS Geronimo was launched on October 3 of 1925, a long time ago. Now, just a little tidbit of information. When the boat was launched, they had to build a little rail system to get the boat to the water from the road. And part of that launch site is still up there that you can see. I don't know how much of it's left. I haven't been there for years, but it used to be right up there before you got to the first water bridge. The lake's name was changed from Mormon Flat Lake to Canyon Lake. And Mr. Moody was responsible for doing that too, changing the name. For whatever reason, he did that. It took no time at all before this boat became one of the destination points in the Valley of the Sun. Canyon Lake soon sported speedboat racing, in the 1920s and 30s, and hydroplane go fast by the 1960s. However, after seeing all that, what happened was the fishing boats and tugboats and tour boats took over all the popular waterways, so that the speed boats no longer existed out there, or weren't supposed to, we'll put it that way. One of the more colorful stories dealing with boats out there that was operating on the clear blue waters was a tugboat by the name of Mary Lee. It started out like this. In 1970, the Salt River Project, the hydro expansion job 6329, if y'all want to go look that up, found itself in need of a powerful craft to move a barge up and down the waterway while they were working on the Horse Mesa Dam. Mr. G.C. Wheeler was the president of the Contractors Cargo Company of Southgate, California, found the tugboat Mary Lee, and that's what he was going to use to tug this barge up and down the water. She was 34 feet from stem to stern and 13 feet across the beam. She was 14 feet tall, and she carried 800 gallons of fuel to fuel the two 671 GMC diesels, 671 horsepower per, and it had the two motors, and each one of them rotated in a different direction underneath of the ship. Now, for those of you who don't know, and I didn't, propellers in a twin-engine boat are set to turn in opposite directions. And the reason they do that is because if they turn in the same direction, let's say they're all turning clockwise to the starboard, that's over here, the right. What'll happen is the rear end of the boat, the stern of the boat wants to pull to the right, which means the front of the boat will pull to the port, which is left, that's over here. So you'd be constantly oversteering in the wrong direction, trying to make the boat go someplace that you wanted to go, but the motors didn't want you to go there. So they make the engines go in opposite directions. And now that and $1.25 will get you a cup of coffee pretty much anywhere. And you know that. Well, they found that this tugboat could be delivered in good working order for $19,500. I don't know what that equals in today's money. Well, yeah, I do. It's about 140 grand. But if you were working in 1970, you already know that. You know what the dollar was worth. She served for only 2 years working on the dam, and then she was mothballed and sold for scrap in 1982. The tugboat Mary Lee was a pretty dramatic sight to see when she was working, but even so, she was not the largest boat to work on Canyon Lake. She was the largest working vessel, but she wasn't the largest vessel to ever work out there. Now the Geronimo, the one that was constructed in 1925, carried 50 passengers. She was 35 feet long with a 10-foot beam. She was about the same size as the Mary Lee, but she was the one that lit the fuse for the future tourism on the lakes. These boat excursions became so popular that a special bus tour service became available to take people up to the lake to go down to the dock and get on the boat. Now these buses were big Fords, and they would carry however many people, I don't know how many people they took. Now after that all took place, people were flocking to get up there, but the boat just wasn't big enough. Now the next ship that was to take over, because she was much bigger, was the Dolly Steamboat. And she derived her name from the original owners, Dolly and Paul Kennedy. She was much bigger. The tour started in 1983, and people just loved being up there on the ship. In October of 1987, however, Roger and Margie Grimm purchased the Dolly. Jeff and Cindy de la Sueur came on board shortly thereafter. Now Cindy's still up there. She's in charge of all the office and whatnot, things that go on there with tickets, and she also handles all of the publicity for the steamboat. And Jeff is at the helm as the Dolly's main captain. And he's out there piloting the boat up and down the canyon waterway, and he tells stories about the Superstition Mountains and the legends and the lore. The Dolly Steamboat was significantly larger, and she could carry 150 passengers on her decks. The boat is over 103 feet long with a 20-foot beam. She started out with a 4-cylinder Chevrolet engine, which was replaced by two 225 horsepower John Deere diesel engines. Actually, this makes a big difference as far as what goes on the water, because it's easier to maneuver the boat around on the water, in and out of some of the alcoves that they go to. And besides just being on the water and hearing the gentle slapping of the water against the hull, well, you see the sheer cliffs that are up on both sides of the ship as you go down between them. More often than not, and you can see the big horned sheep occasionally, and the eagles, other birds of prey out there, and waterfowl. And this is generally accompanied by the sound of the captain telling you the legends and lore of the superstitions. In this particular case, folks, there is no mystery. Enjoying Arizona's beautiful lakes and waterways is a true treasure of the Superstition Mountains. Thank you for watching this episode of Mysteries of the Superstition Mountains.